Hello. All right, I know I am a little bit late because I was struggling with my microphone as usual. Um, all right, it is a bit late in the evening today, um, and I have done zero prep, so I will have to gather my thoughts live. So I think where we left off on Friday was, I guess, first of all, welcome to the stream. This is a in-between session of Product Like It's Friday. I think it's just going to be me today. We'll see. What we've done last Friday was we spent some time just talking about the idea behind Cocoon. This was a project that was close to my heart that I tried to work on last year, over a year ago, honestly, at this point. That came out of my personal experience with therapy. And also, I think when I had my experience with therapy and started talking to other people about their mental health struggles, I think I started seeing the value of consistency. It's like a question mark, but more like having tools that you can draw from when you need them, because I think there are like multiple pieces to having good mental health. One is, first you gotta have enough motivation to do something about it, like to recognize that you're struggling, because like when you are in such a bad place, a lot of times it's effortful to just even acknowledge that and to not even like say it out loud, but like tell it to yourself. So I think that's the first step that I don't know if we can do anything about, to be honest, at least on the tech side. But once you recognize that you're struggling and you are looking for solutions, I think like reducing effort to like take that first step is huge. Which was, I think my reflection is just like it took a long time for me to get help because help felt like it requires this much effort, and I only had this little bit. Anyway, I feel like now I'm just repeating myself, but I'm jogging my own memory of like what we did on Friday because it's been a couple of days and I did not take notes on what I said I was gonna do next. So I guess I could rewatch the stream myself, but we'll see. I think what I said I would do next is to start mapping out the first tool. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and we'll see how it goes. My brain is a little toasted today because it's just been a lot going on. But I think we'll stumble through it together. Oh, I just really suck at using Restream. Okay, let me put myself back. All right, cool. So I think last we talked was we had settled on one tool in particular, which was the thought record. So this was one tool that I have actually used many times. Not recently, but especially during, I wouldn't say the peak of my depression or the peak of my anxiety, but definitely like in that intermediate stage of like I know I need to do something about it and I have enough in me to actually do something about it, if that makes sense. And I think last time we also talked about. I hope my audio is coming through. By the way, yeah, let me know if it's not. Yeah, I think last time I also talked about like the analogy of fires, um, and how I think about it is that, like there are definitely like acute mental health issues that no tool, technology, and often people can help with, and that's where like professionals, medications, hospitals, have to come into place. But I do feel like there are ways we can reduce the amount of fires that become big issues. Like keep put out the small fires so that they don't become big fires. And I know I don't know if analogies work for everybody, but I feel quite strongly about this analogy because I see it in so many different places, in education, in healthcare. I'm sure there's other things that I'm not in firefighting itself, right? Like I read this like comic book or like illustrated book about climate change, and one chapter was on firefighting and how like all the firefighters, or I guess the firefighting teams, are deployed to put out the biggest fires because that's all. There's limited resources, there's limited people, and so you have to put out the big fires with the professionals, but then like because of the limited resources, the smaller fires are left to grow, and that really sucks because then they become big fires, and then you're just in a cyclical thing. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent at this point. Okay, going back to what I was going to do next. So this is the thought record. How it works is that first, you are supposed to input like, what's the situation here? And maybe in the future, I can pull up a record that I actually completed myself. I'm trying to think, like, do I want to get that vulnerable here? I don't think I have it here with me, unfortunately, but maybe next time. Maybe next time I will share a personal thought record, because I think it does help in like making this less abstract. Yeah. So first, you're identifying the situation. For example, like, did you have a fight with somebody, or like did you get into road rage or whatever it is? Like, where were you? Who were you with? That kind of thing. Like, think of it as like storytelling almost, of like, this is what happened, and here I am. And then describing like the mood. I think this is where we will need some sort of, I'm just talking aloud. We will need some sort of like, so maybe this is a form, or maybe this is like I'm thinking about like, who were you with? Because I think one path is that it's free form, and the user just describes the situation how they see it. But I think because we want to, like, for the first iteration at least, we want to not have to use AI. This was Adnan's challenge, which I honestly agree with. Like, I think this stuff will be enhanced by AI, but like people should be able to use it to tell us who were they with. Like maybe it's like, maybe at the start of the experience we have some sort of, okay, this is gonna get a little weird, but I'm gonna add a sticky ahead of like this tool experience, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna, I guess, add like product tool or something, just because I think maybe there is something here about like just gathering some information about the user and their world, like who is in their immediate circle, like who is in your household, or like who do you talk to the most, or I don't know. um yeah, so maybe some sort of like onboarding, I guess. Onboarding. I really hope the audio is coming through, because otherwise I'm just here talking to myself. All right, so onboarding some sort of, I also want to, because I am lazy, as always. I like to say I'm lazy, but here I am at 10 p.m. So, maybe I'm not so lazy. Okay. Because I'm lazy, I'm gonna check out my old journey map, because I had thought about I had thought about it. Okay. So we can. Okay, this is scope creep for sure, but we can steal this. Just like copy paste. Note that I am no longer using the black screen thing, because I am now ashamed. Maybe I'll keep this separately, actually. I know that I just did this, but maybe what I will do is just have onboarding here. Because I think, wow, this is nice. This is more relating to like Cocoon, the platform, than the tool itself. I think what I want to know is like name, date of birth. Maybe not even date of birth. Who cares? Okay, maybe age range, because we want to know if we're dealing with like millennials or boomers, and I love data, so I want to know. But we'll see if this makes it through the negotiations. Okay. Perhaps what I will do is, so this was designed back when I was like over engineering the UX, and like I was like, oh man, we're gonna have like many tools. There's proactive tools like checking and whatever's, and then there's reactive tools, is the big branches essentially. So basically it's like, oh, if nothing is bothering you, just do a mood check, a vibe check, if you will. Journal, identify anything if there is anything. And what I consider proactive tools are like how do I want to grow as a person, even though I'm not struggling with anything in particular right now. For example, my toxic trait is saying for example when I don't have an example yet. um, anyway, for example, maybe I am not struggling with anything in particular right now, and I'm like, I want to grow my, I don't know, like confidence or whatever, like how I convey myself to other people. Um, and maybe that tool is some improv stuff. I have no idea. Now I'm just making shit up. Okay, and then reactive tools is like something is bothering me and I need to figure out what to do about it. And like if someone is having a negative emotion, um, the reactive tool can also just be talking through it and like getting things out somewhere. Because I often, another analogy, I honestly feel like humans are like machines in a way. I mean, we are, but in a way, I feel like a lot of times when you have feelings that you cannot express, that's where things start getting shittier. And of course, like you still have to solve the root problem, but I often find that when you can express it in some way or another, it already makes it easier to manage. It makes it easier to just live with. Like if I feel sad and I don't talk about it, then I will only feel shittier. But if I feel sad and I'm like able to like do something, like even if it doesn't take the sadness away, it's like the yeah, like I don't know how I got there. Anyway, okay, going back. See, this is me struggling with struggling with all of this stuff. I do not have a diagnosis, but when I'm left unsupervised, I go off on tangents, and I think I don't know, I'm getting okay at this talking out loud thing on stream now, but I think it has its pros and cons in that like now I'm taking everyone with me on the tangents instead of just doing them in my head and then being confused. Okay. All right. Okay. So the onboarding here, I think going back to what I was trying to do here, I think I'll keep it separate and just revise this a little bit because I don't think we need that routing thing that I just showed just yet because we only, we'll start with one tool. So I think what it would just say is like, what should it say? Do you have a diagnosis? So this is just like gathering information or logging. What should people see when they first log in? I think it could be cool to have like, maybe we have like tools launch point, like whatever it is, like, and the first one is like thought record, and then I think I do like the idea of like a mood tracker or a journaling type situation. So just some way to like launch these tools, and I do want to keep it here because like even if we don't build one of them, we can have a button that just says coming soon, and I think that's fine. And then we should launch the tool selected. Okay, this is good enough for now. I just want to have that in mind because I want to be able to like pulling some of this data on like, like if they are married and have kids or whatever, then we can, ask them like spouse, kids, friend, coworker. And this can be like a multi-select or something like that. It could be neat to have like to gather like specifics because like it's infinitely, I don't know, I think it's infinitely like more conversational when you can name somebody, like if you're having a conversation with a friend and you don't know the name of their kids, it's a lot less personal versus like when you're like, hey, how's little Jimmy doing? But scope creep. Okay, what were you doing? I feel like this, I don't know, maybe that's too like, when was this? Just now. Earlier today. Whatever. We don't need to figure out the specific like options, but I feel like what were you doing is a little like can be anything. So maybe just some input, text input. This is why I wrote form ? Here, because I think it's essentially a form, right? Who were you with? So this is a multi-select essentially. Spouse. Kid. People. Okay. So some texting input. When was this? This is single select because it can only happen at one time. And where were you? Maybe it's home, work, out, and about. I don't know. Okay, getting a little too specific, I think. But the user is just filling in the details of the situation. I don't think we need to change the wording of that. And after they've described the situation, they can describe each mood in one word. I don't like scrolling back and forth. Now I'm just getting picky. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a copy of this and crop it so that, okay, this is gonna be so like janky. But what I will do is I'm gonna crop first the heading and then I'm gonna crop the prompts, I guess, the questions, the things down there. Oh, and I also just remembered that I was supposed to find the additional resources referenced here. Okay, doesn't matter. And I'm just gonna move it up here because I'm sick of scrolling up and down because I'm lazy, as I mentioned. All right. Okay, automatic thoughts. Okay, I skipped a step. Okay, then they should be describing their mood. I don't want people to have to describe their mood because I struggled with this. And remember, we're building for me. So if I struggle with it, gotta make it easier. What I have found work really well, that I really like actually, is this app called How We Feel. But I no longer use it, so that's a different story. But I do like how they, I guess, represent different moods visually. So maybe what I would do is just find some images of that app. And I think what I would do actually, because I just remembered that I have some helpful things here. Where is it? Okay, here. So I collect tools, which is interesting. So I collect tools. That's just like my thing. Mental health tools, product tools, conversation tools. Like, look at this. Facilitation tools. I think that's just what I do now. Anyway, so this is, I'm pulling this up because I'm thinking about a particular site that I'm thinking of. I think is it Shortcuts? It's either Mobin? I don't actually know how to pronounce it, or shortcuts.com, .design. I think I'll open both and just see what they look like, because I wanna pull up some like reference designs, even though like we're just in the mapping phase. Or should I? I feel like I'm getting distracted by the visuals side of things. Shortcuts.design. Okay, why is it not happy with me? Okay, maybe the universe does not want me to look at shiny UI yet. So I guess I'll stay focused. Damn, it's been 24 minutes here. Okay, my goal today is to finish mapping, by the way. That's my goal. But what I will do though is look up what's on page 72 and 75. So let me pull that up and just open those somewhere. What is it? Write facts, not interpretations. Worksheet 8.1. Okay, cool. Oh, this is helpful. Let me just screenshot it and share. Where's my screenshot? There it is. Okay, so this is worksheet 8.1. Oh, what a mess. Okay, and then questions in the helpful hints. Oh, damn. Okay. Can I find this? Not sure if I can find it. Okay, here's a little bit more. So this is like, oh man, this is gonna be a mess, isn't it? It's okay. It's okay. It will be okay. So this is the problem with these workbooks, because like there's for some reason like 5 different versions of the same exercise, and I'm like, why do some of them have more details than the other? And I'm trying to figure out like if there's anything that I'm missing. Ooh, what could be helpful though is an example that I can then pull up here. I'm sorry, I know I am a little all over the place right now. That's what happens at 10:17 p.m. Oh no, there's no example. Okay, example. Okay, I can't find an example. I can find a half example, so maybe I'll do that. Dot record. Okay, I will find. Okay, I can find a half example, so I think I will just pull that in, and then maybe we can do the exercise together in this situation for this hypothetical person. Oh God, sorry, I am struggling. Okay, so here's an example. I think I'll put the example at the bottom because I don't think we need to look at it yet. But I think we can reference it as we go. And then this one is to help step 4. So we can also put it aside, I think, for now. But I will add a note for future Mary because I'm not making the most sense. So this is worksheet 8.1, which let me reference step 4. Okay, future Mary, as in not even like tomorrow Mary, just like 20 minutes from now or less. Okay, back to this. So what's going on is situation. I'm just gonna add like situation here just so that I don't get confused, honestly, because like the language, I think the way I'm thinking about the language is that like situation feels very clinical, but if you're like, oh, what's going on, it's a lot more conversational. It's a lot easier to like grasp. Oh, maybe we stick with situation. Who knows? Um, yeah, maybe we stick with it. We'll see. And then the next step is moods. Oh yeah, the reason why I was on a tangent going to look for shiny UI was because I had used an app that did a pretty good job of like moods. So I think I still want to find a screenshot of it, but maybe just not as clear. I think I would just find an image from like Google Play or something like that. Because I really liked some of it. You know what? I will share that in a bit. So let me share my screen, share my other screen, that is. Here. So this is the apps that I'm thinking of. I am not a Google, I guess, Android user, but this is just what came up. So here it is. So this was what I was referring to when I was like, oh, I really like how they handled moods. I like the color association. I like, so how it works is like you can like scroll around the screen to find like a mood that best fit how you're feeling. One thing I didn't like about it is that oftentimes, especially if I'm thinking about like a day overall, there's a couple different moods mixed together. So I found it hard to like pinpoint what exactly I was feeling. But I think it's pretty good in terms of like a pulse check. So I like that interaction. So I like the idea of like having a. I wish there's a video. Is this a video? No, it's not a video. Maybe there's a YouTube video. I don't know if I want to share my YouTube history. How we feel app video. Maybe a short video. No. Maybe this. Okay, this is just some person on TikTok. But basically, like this is what I picture when I think about like some sort of mood tracking. Except I want to be able to like mix a couple different things because I have no idea what she's saying, but like, okay, here it is. So oh my god, her head. No, okay, I'm struggling. Okay, stop. Okay, I'm sorry, whoever you are, for this unflattering frame. What I do like about this mood thing is that like first you're pinpointing if you're feeling pleasant or unpleasant, if it's higher energy or low energy. So like when you're feeling anxious, for example, you can feel mildly anxious or you can feel intensely anxious. Um, as an example, I don't know if that's a good example, but I like the idea of like, identifying like what's a high level of intensity, versus like calm stuff, or like low energy unpleasant could be like withdrawn or whatever it is. um, Also, I do not have TikTok, and none of this represent anything about me and algorithms relating to me, just FYI. Okay, she's gonna keep talking things that we cannot hear. I mean, I guess I could turn on. Oh, I don't like that she didn't show the interaction. Okay, so what happens is like when you tap into a specific category of like, for example, high intensity, I guess this would be like high intensity pleasant, or low intensity. Yeah, low intensity pleasant. um, then like it's like you zoom into the bubbles, and then you can see all these different shapes, that is like the more specific moods. Um, and then like you can scroll around to like find the specific thing that you're feeling. Um, and then yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe we'll copy this. We'll see. And then I think it asks like what's contributing to this, and we don't need to get there. All right, to going back to mapping out. Okay, so moods. I think what I would do is, this is ideal MVP. So I'm sure we'll negotiate, and trim things. Maybe to start, it's just like, because I like the specific moods, but I also don't know if it matters right now. Okay, anyway, so describe the moods, rate intensity. Oh, I like that. So maybe it's just a matter of like a big mood wheel of some kind, or a mood board. Mood wheel. So those of you who have never been to therapy may not have seen this, but there are many variations of this. So I have no idea like what's the best one, like a particular one. But I do like the mood wheel. So here are some examples. I think I'll also plot it down here. So this, as an example, is a mood wheel. Okay, I don't know if this is the best one. The one that I have no idea if I can find the one that my therapist shared with me. But I guess for some context, one of the things I struggled with when I first started therapy is that I had no way to describe how I was feeling. I was like, I feel shitty, but I like, I don't know. I'm like, sometimes like I can't really tell the difference between like different brands of feeling shitty, if you will. And so something like this helped a little bit, in that like, like I was looking at it like, okay, like I'm feeling insecure and I'm feeling let down. Well, I don't know, as an example. And I like the emotion wheel because you don't have to get extremely specific if you're just feeling the general feeling. Um, but you can. And I think, if I recall, this was also something that I over engineered on when I was working on this last year. So maybe I'll pull that up as well and just see if there's anything we can copy from there. Feelings, yeah, okay. Feelings. Let me share my other screen. You know what? No. Do I wanna? Okay. I don't know. It's kind of like Tangent City. Okay, I'll share this really quickly, but essentially, like what I've done last year was I made this big table of feelings, and maybe we can use this. Like maybe this is the database of feelings. Who knows? But the idea is that like there are basic emotions attached to like the specific feeling. So out of happiness, there are many different kinds of happiness, but you can also just be happy. It's a pleasant feeling versus like these are unpleasant feelings. And then I also added like intensity and variance. Ah, yes. Okay. So this would be like the outer ring. And what I was starting to do, I think, just me guessing my intentions from a year ago. What I was starting to do was like I was starting to like map out which feelings can benefit from which tool. If you recall, I think I was starting to call it the challenge negative thoughts. And so I started mapping out which feelings best benefit from which tools. So maybe this will be helpful at some point. Maybe not yet, but I think what I want to do is just have this on the side, so that I'm not like reworking things that I've already done quite a bit on. And I know that this is a little bit different in that like I've done some work on it already, kind of, but not quite the build part. And so we'll see. Maybe what I will start with though is just outlining um, like what are they supposed to see here. So in an ideal world, I think I would want to represent the mood wheel. So maybe this is like, how are you feeling now? This is moods. And I think like we don't need to worry about the intensity piece because they should be rating how intense it is. So I almost wonder if it should be just like show the wheel. And I think the wheel, I want to design the wheel, but not right now. So it would show the wheel, and then I guess they should be asked to like maybe check mark or like select, tap, click, tap the moods where what you are feeling right now. I'll just make this a little bit smaller, and then the user situation. And then the user, when they see this, they should be clicks or taps. I think there should be a max. Maybe like, should there be a max? TBD. Should there be a max? And I know this is very abstract, like without seeing what the wheel is. I think it's gonna be something like this, but better usability. Like this is kind of whack. I cannot read any of those things. So we'll see. Click or tap what you're feeling now. TBD. Design content. Data, really. I'm just gonna bold these so that, again, I'm not confused. Prompts the user to open the product, opens the product. What's going on? I think this should also be, I wish I could make this, mark this like, can I not add tags? That's lame. Well, that's 1 point down for FigJam. Because like the one thing I really like about Miro is that you can add tags. Okay. Opens the product, what's going on, answers the questions relating to the situation. How are you feeling now? Maybe some sort of acknowledgement. Maybe not. That's too much. Okay, moving on. How are you feeling now? Oh shit. Okay, let's group this so that I can move them. What a Frankenstein. Okay, so situation, moods, and then we're going to the automatic thoughts. So I think, let me just make sure I'm not hiding anything. What's going on in my mind? Okay, yeah, I'm not hiding anything that's not already here. So automatic thoughts. So this is the phase where basically we're asking people to be like, hey, like, did you just think of something without thinking? Okay, that sounds very confusing. Did you just like have a thought that was not like you weren't paying attention to what thoughts you were having, but you had a thought that led you to this feeling? If that makes any sense. I feel like if you have had these patterns, you would understand. I hope. Um, that's the hope, is that I'm not just not making sense. Okay, so the automatic thoughts. So there's a lot of prompting here, and I think this will be the tough one. Oh, I didn't even finish my thought here. Clicks or taps. I don't know, 2 to 3 nodes. And input the intensity. So I don't like the 0 to 100%. Maybe other people like it, but because I like data, I had trouble quantifying the intensity because I was like, how do I know it's at 80%? Like, what indicators should I be looking for? What signals, what data do I need to say that I am at an 80% intensity? So I struggled with that. So I wonder if it should be more like maybe it's like maybe in the background it's a percentage, but on the front end it's a rank intensity. Maybe on the front end it's more visual. 200% is my thought. Anyway, we don't have to go there. And I just realized that I did not consider this step of the mood. So circling or marking the mood you want to examine. I don't know if it matters. I don't know. Like, I think I want the system to suggest which mood to examine, unless I almost wonder, should there even be positive moods, given that this exercise challenges negative ones? I don't know. TBD. TBD things. Okay, we can figure that out later. Circle or mark the mood you want to examine. You know what? For the sake of simplicity, I think maybe we should have that. Or maybe it's for the sake of simplicity. Maybe, okay, I'm revising this. This takes forever. Hopefully this is the hard part. Perhaps we should just be asking what feeling are you okay, undo, because I do think there is value in collecting multiple feelings, multiple like moods, or like mood pieces, because like, I don't know, I'm never really just feeling one thing. I'd love to know if that's a weird, that's an uncommon experience, but I find that like most of the time I have complex feelings and when people ask how are you feeling, I don't just say I feel powerful or I feel peaceful or I feel despair. There's usually a mixed bag. So I do think there is value in it. So maybe what the system can ask is just like, which of these are you struggling with or something? And then it's just like it's essentially a single select of the feelings they've previously listed. Nodes listed by user. I know this is not the best. Like this maybe should be broken into multiple steps, but let's ignore like the UX itself and just get the flow out. And then I think in the iteration we can like break it down a little bit further. Okay, nodes listed by user with intensity as an example. Maybe it's lonely, 50%. Bored, 30%. What else? What else can we add here? Ooh, maybe it's like mad or like angry. Maybe it's okay. Drawing from my personal experience, frustration is a pretty intense mood for me. Okay, so maybe it's this. And again, I think on the front end, it would not be percentages, but just for the sake of illustrating here. And maybe we scope creep. Scope creep recommend the highest intensity thing to focus on. Default selection. Well, you know what? Can't be that hard to default, right? Default to highest intensity negative feeling. Or let's say unpleasant mood. Let's just get the consistent language. Default select the highest intensity unpleasant mood. Okay, so that's an example. Which of these are you struggling with? And then the user is selects the mood they are you, maybe it's are you most struggling with? Most struggling with. Okay, cool. Okay, we're finally on step 3. Let me just add continued. Step 3 is automatic thoughts or images. So essentially this is like when something happens, when you're triggered, what is the triggering? Like it could be like a childhood memory or like, you know, like what's like a recurring thought. The classic one is I'm never gonna be good enough, or I'm always screwing up, or like I don't know, something like that, or images or memories. I wish, yeah, I have images or memories that come up, but I think I will hold on to them for now until like we get to the examples at some point eventually. Okay, So maybe what I would do here, because we're trying to not get too intense, I'm going to copy this one just because it's more similar. And oh, I didn't get the spacing right. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. So here we'll have automatic thoughts. And I don't know how to like how to ask these questions, you know, like what are you thinking, I guess, or like what thoughts have you had, what negative, what I don't know. Okay, I think I will just leave it poorly phrased for now. What out of it, because we're not doing UX copy right now. But I know this needs to be rephrased because like what automatic thoughts do you have is not the best like UX language. But I think we'll have to do. And then I think I don't know if I want to like ask questions. Because I think it should just be what is it, like a text. What were you doing? Text. Okay. I want to make sure that we can do text or voice or transcribe maybe. Anyway, now I'm getting distracted again. Okay. Text or voice input. Because I think this should be more freeform. Because I think like while we can add prompts or prompt questions, like what was going through my mind, what was going through your mind just before you started feeling this way. Like while we can add those prompt questions, like none of these are I guess easy to answer questions. I think like the depression, like the more specific ones maybe. So I think, you know, beyond the MVP, I think it could be cool to like, you know, if they identify a mood that aligns with depression or align with anger or align with anxiety, to ask those specific questions. Because like some of the questions are like, you know, what am I afraid might happen? And that's way easier to answer like a general question, like what images have, like what images came up. So I don't know, we'll see. I think now I would just leave it as like it's a text or voice input, and maybe on the screen we can have a couple prompt questions that guide them on like what type of thoughts to share. And then similar to like the moods continued, what they're supposed to do is to circle the hot thought. Let me just see what this is. So this is, oh, I guess I should look at the resource at this point. So looking at the facts. So basically this is like, here are some thoughts that I had. And, oh, these are not thoughts. So these are not thoughts. Here are some thoughts that I had. Maybe I'll pull up the example. There we go. Okay. So as an example, like it could be like I'm feeling sick, my heart is starting to beat harder and faster, I'm starting to sweat, having a heart attack, I'll never be able to get off this plane and to a hospital, I'm going to die. It doesn't really say like how to identify the hot thought, and my memory is coming back in that like I struggled with this step as well, in that like I was like, how do I know which thought to challenge, like which thought to like focus on. um so I think that would be an interesting challenge as well, because like here it's like, oh, like what are some thoughts that you had. um so maybe it's a matter of like just summarizing the thoughts somehow. um Okay, let's just assume that they did not just rant um, about everything. Which of these thoughts feel most challenging, or something along those lines? Automatic, thoughts continued, and basically they are a list of thoughts listed by user. And I don't think we can default select anything, at least without AI. Okay, cool. And then, oh, I am not doing the user track. So at this point, this is going to be called dot record. By the way, I don't like dot record as a name, but maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. Okay. Okay, so here's they're selecting the mood they're most struggling with, and then basically they are doing the same thing, right? Like they're listing how they're feeling, they're listing thoughts they are having, and then they are listing some thoughts. Maybe this is bullet point. Maybe not bullet point, maybe just like add adds multiple adds each thought in okay, let's just keep it simple. Adds multiple thoughts. The how, we can figure that out later. And then which of these thoughts feel most challenging? Essentially, they then select the thought they find most challenging. All right, moving on to step 4, doing a time check. Okay, we are a bit over an hour, and I would like to get to bed before midnight, so we'll see how far we go. I think we'll be fine. I think we can finish at least the first pass, and then at some point I'll come back and do a second pass, because I think some of this does need to be broken down a bit more. What these thoughts feel most challenging, and then essentially step 4 and 5 is finding evidence that supports it, and then finding evidence that I cannot speak. Finding evidence that does not support it. So playing a bit of a, I don't know, an advocate for yourself. First, you know, make yourself feel extra shitty because you're like, I have a lot of evidence that supports it. But I think the point of this exercise is that, like, if you don't find any evidence that does not support it, then it means it's not just a thought. It's a legitimate concern that you then need to address. Um, either need to address or accept. But a lot of times there are many thoughts that we tell ourselves that are just mean and horrible, that require some, balanced thinking. Okay, I'm tired now. Evidence. Okay, so we're gathering evidence. So they have circled the hot thought. I also don't like the word hot thought. And then they are being asked to find evidence. What makes you think this? And then insert thought selected. And I know this is kind of boring because without a concrete example, it just feels very abstract. And then, but I think this will make more sense when there is more UI, or even wireframes. Okay, so first, what makes you think that? Thinks this, and then shows the thought itself. Okay, getting a little. I'm gonna add some italics because I'm struggling with keeping myself sane. And this does not have to make sense to anybody, just me. Okay, what makes you think this? So this is supporting evidence, essentially. Supporting evidence. And then whatever the opposite of support is. What is the opposite of support? Like, what's the opposite of supporting evidence? Let me ask my friend AI. What's the opposite of supporting evidence? Contradictory evidence. Refuting evidence. Nice. Counter evidence. Okay, I like counter evidence a lot more. Okay, anyway, we can workshop that later. But I think similar to this question here, it would be a text or voice input that has some prompt questions, or like prompt content, I guess. Yeah, maybe it's not even specifically questions, and just content. And the content would essentially be like, hey, is that a fact? Is that a, like, maybe it even is just like some of the examples. We practice telling the difference between facts and interpretations. So facts are generally things that everyone would agree on in a situation. Things like it was Thursday night, or the expression on Judy's face changed. Interpretations are things people looking at the same situation might disagree with. Okay, I think that's just like prompt content, e.g. a fact is blah blah blah, and not an interpretation. So just some reminders to people to not add their interpretations here. So maybe clarifying this. What facts make you think this? Okay. Okay, cool. And then basically they're adding evidence. I also don't know if evidence is the right word. Well, facts. Maybe let's just stick to the facts. And then the next step is finding counter evidence. And let me just read what that says. Okay, I think I need to find the helpful hints. Luckily, I do have the book with me. I just need to step away for like 1 second because it's like on the shelf right there. Oh. There we go. There we go. Okay, I do have the book with me. So let's see what's on page 75. Oh, and I guess I could share an example if I really want to. Oh God, there's so many questions here. Okay. There are like many questions. Okay, so maybe I don't need to read them all, but just want to see okay, what type of questions they are like. Okay, so I think it will be a similar process of oh, it's page 100. What facts make you what evidence, what experiences, or like, okay, now I'm fussing around with the details again. What does not support this thought? Maybe we can fuss around with the language at a later time, but essentially it's a similar process of like entering some evidence of like, and maybe this should be like a table, you know, like I think about like the pros and cons list where it's like one side is like, I kind of like that. What facts make you, okay, maybe it's a table. Table of supporting versus counter evidence. Left column. I kind of like that. I know this is kind of messy and hard to illustrate what I'm thinking, but essentially I'm thinking about like why does this need to be 2 steps? It could be one table, and that way, as a user, I don't have to like be like, oh yeah, there was another fact that I forgot, you know, like going back and forth. Okay, so some sort of prompt here that adds multiple evidence, let's just say adds evidence in both columns. And then the sort of prompt here would be like, you know, just looking at the book. Like, as an example, the first question is like, have you had any experiences, or is there any info that suggests that this thought is not completely true at all time? Completely true. Okay. I can't spell. Okay, this is just an example, but I think we can figure that out later. Okay, so we got left column, basically supporting evidence. Okay, maybe it's just maybe it's just left column supporting evidence and then the prompt is like whatever, and then right column is counter evidence, and then there's some content about like what to think about, what type of content to look for. Okay, cool. So this combines steps 4 and 5. That's great. That's great. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're in the final stretch. This is the hard part, and I think this is the heart of the tool. Is like building up to a more balanced view on things, instead of like black and white thinking of like I'm always shitty or I'm always awesome, which I think if you feel always awesome, that's great. Okay, so alternative balance thoughts. Okay, let's see. So essentially this is like, okay, now you've gathered all the evidence. Can you rewrite the thought based on those evidence? And I'm just taking a peek at page 100, just out of curiosity on like what's there. Okay, yeah, it says based on the evidence I have listed in columns, those columns, is there an alternative or balanced way of thinking about or understanding the situation? To write a balanced thought. Oh, this was the part that I really leveraged AI for when I was when I was playing around last year, because it's like, I don't know, writing is not everybody's strong suit. To write a balanced thought, write one statement summarizing all the evidence that supports the thought, and another statement summarizing all the evidence that does not support it. Does combining the two summary statements with the word "and" create a balanced thought that takes into account all the information I have gathered? And then it also asks you to like think about if someone else is in the situation and had these thoughts and had all this information available, what alternative view would you suggest or adopt? Or if someone else who cares about you knew that you had this thought, what might this person say? Is another way of understanding it. Okay, yeah, there's some good guidance in here. I think maybe what I'll do is just have I wonder if it's a matter of, because like this is like accumulation of the layers that have been added on, and on one hand I think all of the content contribute to the final like balanced thought and the moods, but on the other hand I wonder if it's going to be too overwhelming, but maybe not. We'll see, I guess. Can only know once we build it, I guess. Okay, so maybe it's just, yeah, I guess I'm starting to think about like the UI and what that looks like, but trying to not get too ahead of myself here. So maybe it's just a matter of like, given, let me just call this, I like balanced. I want to call it finding balance. No, let's just call it what it is. Based on the supporting and counter evidence, is there alternative balanced way of thinking about the situation? Something like this. And again, I think this has to be a text-based input. Maybe we should stick to text just to make our lives easier for now. And you can always transcribe. Just transcribe if you want to think out loud. Okay, it's not that bad. So text input, and then again, I think it's similar in that, like, maybe it's just reflection prompt. Yeah, maybe let's just call it reflection prompt, because we don't need to be specifying what that is. Okay, let me just update that. I know I don't have to, but I'm a little particular sometimes. Okay, so based on the supporting and counter evidence, and then I think what I will do, yeah, so this will be another text input. I don't love that there's so much text input, but yeah, we'll see. And then at this point, they are rights, a balance that reflects in rights. I almost wonder if it should be like, I wonder if they should be like rewriting the original thought. Rewrites their original thought to be or something. Again, this is happy path. Like, we definitely need to think about what it looks like if the user is like, I still feel this way, or like, I did not find any evidence on the counter side. So yeah, I think the reflection prompts can show up as like empty states almost, or maybe not. I don't know. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. So given that they're on the happy path, the last step is to assess their mood again. And maybe what we'll do, oh, I guess I have not considered this. I don't know if this is needed. I mean, sure, let's do that, and we can cut later. How much do you begin? It's the original thought. And then this is some sort of ranking thing. Not ranking, but like, I guess ranking, like between like very believable to not at all, or something like that. Nice. I don't know if I like the believability part. I don't like, how much do you resonate? Is this maybe? I don't know. Ranks. I think again, I think I'd want it to be visual. Resonation? Is that a word? Okay, let's pretend like I know what that word means. Okay. Oh man. Okay, last step is to revisit the moods. And I think that's pretty straightforward. And I'm just gonna copy this, and basically basically it's balanced moods, right? I cannot spell once again. How are you feeling now? And then I think once again, I think it should show them how they've, like which things they've tapped at the start. And I think similarly, they are revising their moods, both like which moods and the intensity levels. And I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. I think what I want to do now. Do I want to keep going? Let's see how we're doing for time. So I guess to recap what I attempted to do today, and I will send this timestamp to Adnan in case the TLDR is appreciated. Okay, so what I've done today is I pulled up some other resources from like the toolbox. So this is an example of like the first half of the thought record. So in this example, it's Sunday evening in the airplane on the runway. Linda is waiting for the plane to take off, and she is feeling intense fear. And in her case, she's not feeling a multitude of different moods. I find that when I do this exercise, there's always multiple different moods. And in how I've designed, I think the flow so far, it's basically like what's going on, who are you with. I was thinking that some of these questions can be like not free form, like who are you with, like it could be a multi-select. When was this? Where were you? Oh man, okay, I need to go to bed. And then how are you feeling now? And because I mentioned that, like for me, I always feel many different things, and I also struggled with naming my feelings. I want to create something of the sort of like mood wheel. I spent some time talking about like a previous, I guess, Notion database of feelings that I've put together in the past that we can take a look at. But essentially, it's like there's the basic emotions of happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. Yeah, I think we got them all. And some of them are pleasant, like surprised and happy. I don't know if surprised. Some of surprised is just surprised, and then it's kind of unfortunate that there are more negative things on this wheel, but it is what it is. But I think, yeah, I want to create some version of this. Maybe it's literally just the first ring of the feelings, and then providing examples of like what is bad. It could be overwhelmed, pressured, whatever. But under the hood, it's just bad. Okay, anyway, side tangent. So how are you feeling now is the next step. I think there are a couple question marks on like how I want to approach, like should there be a max? Like can the user click on literally every mood there is and be like, I'm feeling all of the things all at once, which is valid, but at the same time, like that's not very helpful to themselves or us. And then should there even yeah, should we even be displaying positive moods given that this tool is supposed to challenge negative ones, right? I think we should, especially if we're like gonna reuse it for like a mood check type situation. Um, I don't want to do this, but I wonder if we should do the mood check thing first. Like, should we do the mood check tool first? Okay, we'll go back. We'll come back to this, but I will first walk through the flow that's here, and then they're answering, and then they're so they're clicking or tapping a couple moods that match how they're feeling now, and ranking the intensity. So in the original tool, they want you to rank it or rate it from 0 to 100%. I struggled with like giving percentages because I'm like, what constitutes as 80% intensity? Like what should I be feeling? What specifically should I be feeling when I'm 80% anxious? Should my palms be sweating? Anyway, so I struggled with that. So I think on the front end, like user facing wise, it should just be visual, like maybe a slider of some kind. And even though under the hood it's still like probably a numeric thing, I think not forcing people to input a numeric thing. Like, Linda, please, what does 98% fear mean? Like, what? Anyway, and then have done that, so they have told us about what moods they're feeling and how intense they are. Then they are selecting one that they're most struggling with. I think we should default select the highest intensity one. So if they, for example, have lonely 50%, bored 30%, or frustrated 70%, I think we should select the frustrated one to start, and it's up to the user to say, I actually want to address my loneliness instead of my intense frustration. Okay, that sounded okay. No comment. Selects the mood they're most struggling with, and in this case, in Linda's case, she just has one mood, so I guess easy peasy for Linda. For someone like myself, usually harder to evaluate what's the most like intense thing that I'm struggling with. But generally, if I look back at previous times that I've done this exercise through therapy, I'm usually going to the highest intensity one. And then the next step is like identifying what automatic thoughts are happening. So this relies a lot on reflection prompts. So things like basically this stuff, like what was going through my mind, what images came up, what does this mean about me, what am I afraid my height at, blah, blah, blah. Did I hurt other people, blah, 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 what do I, shame. So essentially like probing questions that can jog the person's brain a little bit in like what to say here. And here they're just adding multiple thoughts as they come up. And then similar to the mood selection piece, I guess I should go to the example. So in this example, again, Linda is waiting for the plane to take off, and she is thinking, I'm feeling sick, blah, blah, blah. And the next step was to select what's the thought that they want to, they call it the hot thought. I don't like it. But it's basically like, what's the thought that I'm having the hardest time with right now that I want to challenge or evaluate? So in this case, I am, I guess, phrasing it as which of these thoughts feel most challenging. They're basically selecting it. I recall that when I was in therapy, like if there are multiple, you can do multiple, but then like you need to go down like two separate branches. Like you need to like find evidence for two separate thoughts, and I think let's keep that out of scope for now. And then the next step, so in the original tool, it's two separate steps, but I think it can be one step of like if you think about like a pros and cons list, or like a gathering evidence for and against something. I don't know if lawyers do that, by the way. I'm just making stuff up. But if you're an investigator, for example, maybe you are like finding evidence for and against a certain hypothesis. And so this is the meat and potato of this whole tool, which is finding evidence both for and against an automatic thought. So as an example, left column, I guess before going to example, left column is supporting evidence, right column is counter evidence. So basically left column is like, you know, like if my thought is I'm never going to be good enough, I always go to that example. Maybe the left column, I will find supporting evidence in places where I have dropped the ball, in places that I objectively have done a poor job. I have objectively failed people and hurt people, or whatever it is. But the point is, like in the reflection prompts, it's pushing the user to be like, hey, is this a fact or interpretation? I mean, not in this case, it would just say, this is a fact, this is an interpretation, but maybe in the future it can identify which evidence does not look so factual with the power of AI, TM. And then on the right column, it's counter evidence. So it's like, if the thought is I'm never going to be good enough, it's basically challenging you to find evidence against that thought. So I will probably be finding evidence where I do feel good about myself, where I have shown up for people, where I have helped bring value to whatever it is, where I am good enough. And going to the example for Linda, so her automatic thought is I'm having a heart attack. And so she listed evidence that supports it. You know, she's like, my heart is racing, that's an objective fact. I am sweating, that's an objective fact. These could be two signs of a heart attack. That's an objective fact. Yes, if you Google or WebMD this, you can certainly come to the conclusion that you are having a heart attack. But when she took some time to look at evidence that does not support this thought, there's a lot more. Anxiety can cause a rapid heartbeat. My doctor told me that the heart is a muscle. Using a muscle makes it stronger, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing. But the point is, she's found a lot of evidence against this thought that she's having a heart attack. And then, even though the example doesn't go any further, we can continue using that example, I think. And then the last couple steps is just based on both sides of the evidence. Is there an alternative way of thinking about it? And my thinking is that the user can rewrite their original thought. So like actually display their original thought and challenge them to rewrite it based on the evidence. This feels hard, but I guess, yeah. Again, we're designing for Mary here. So if I find it okay, then we're good for MVP. How much do you resonate with this? This is just like a question of like, once you have rewrote the thought that's more balanced. So maybe let's do that quickly here. So maybe the thought here is my heart is racing, or like I have physical discomfort, but unlikely not having a heart attack. So this is just a quick example. I don't know if this is what Linda would have come to the conclusion of, but you never know. I have some physical discomfort, but that's essentially what's happening, right? Like she's listed her physical discomfort that are signs of a heart attack that do align with that, but she also knows that this has happened before and in the past it has returned to normal and that anxiety can cause the same stuff. And she's likely having a panic attack, honestly. Okay, so I'm speaking for Linda now. That's, yeah. And then how much do you resonate with this? Is just like a quick gut check of like, like sometimes like you can have an objective and more balanced thought, but not believing it. So maybe in Linda's case, she's like 70%. No, I don't know how that became 57. And then lastly, it's just another like mood check of like, how are you feeling now? Essentially popping up the same, basically what they've selected previously, as well as the intensity level, and just asking them to revise it if it has changed, if it has changed at all, and it doesn't have to. I don't know how this ends. How does this end? I don't know. I'm not sure how it ends, but we can figure that out. Perhaps I want to address the one last thing I want to address here is that even though I have mapped out this thought record tool in particular, I am noticing that basically, like last time we talked about the idea of like, where is it? Okay, here. Last time we talked about the idea of like sometimes user is aware of a thought themselves in their own personal life, but it could be really cool if the system can recognize an irrational negative thought through journaling or mood tracking or something. And now that I've mapped it out and noticing that like there is a how are you feeling component to it, I wonder, this is a bit of the original plan, but I wonder if we should be building just the mood tracking component first. Selfishly, of course, I want this tool, but I feel like this is a piece that can work independently and within a tool like this. So I will probably float that with Adnan at some point. And then lastly, just a quick recap of where I started with is just like I copied this from like some exploration I did last year. But essentially it's some sort of onboarding flow where the user tells the system a little bit about themselves. This does not have to happen at all. Like I think for MVP, it's probably just launch point. But I wanted to have this here just because I think some of this data can make it easier to populate some of the other, I guess, steps of mental health tools. As an example, if you are married and have kids, the step here about like who are you with can be more personalized. I think that's it for me. Yeah, I think I'm feeling good about this. I'd be very curious to see where we land in terms of, oh, I got a comment from Adnan, no negotiation, start when you want. Cool. I wish I wish Restream has a way to like pop up memes, because sometimes I think in memes and I want to show them right away. But anyway, Okay, I think in that case, I think the sake of for the sake of like reducing complexity, maybe we should start with like the mood component, um, because I think that will also make this possible, um, and it can still be used within this tool if we do decide to go down that path. Um, okay, cool. I think that's it for me. We will be back at another random time at some point in the future. Not tomorrow, not me at least. But thank you for coming to in between session of Product Like It's Friday, and we'll see you definitely on Friday or earlier. All right, bye.